On 16th July 1945, something happened that changed the world forever. The first nuclear bomb was tested in the desert of southern New Mexico at the White Sands military range. This is known as the Trinity test, and the site of this test is known as the Trinity Site. The US nuclear project was undertaken in 1942 under the presidency of Frank D. Roosevelt. Although it was spread across the whole nation, it was kept under utmost secrecy to the extent that the then Vice President, Harry Truman, was not aware of it until he later became the president. This project is known as the Manhattan Project, as Manhattan, New York was the location of their first headquarters. All the project sites together constitute and are federally preserved under the Manhattan Project National Historic Park. The project team was led by the eminent scientist Robert Oppenheimer and consisted of the best scientific brains of the time. The epicenter of the project was located in Los Alamos in New Mexico. The Trinity site, which is the site of the explosion, was chosen based on its proximity from Los Alamos and also the remoteness from civilization in order to minimize human impact and also to maintain secrecy. Today, this site is generally closed to public 363 days a year because of high radioactivity even now. Also, it is part of an active army base. It's open to public only 2 days a year, the first Saturday of April and the third Saturday of October, in form of the Trinity Site Open House. Previously, till 2021, it used to be the first Saturdays of April and October. For planning a trip to the Trinity site during one of the open houses, the best resource is the webpage maintained by the White Sands Military Range.
My friend Arindam and I visited the central New Mexico in the fall of 2021. We made a day trip to the Trinity site from Santa Fe on 2nd October. It was about a 160-mile drive to the junction of Route 380 and the spur road that leads into the Army complex. On the way, we passed Albuquerque. This was also the first day of the annual Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, and we witnessed a marvelous sight of hundreds of balloons rising and filling up the morning sky. We did come back to Albuquerque later to see the balloon fiesta, which was amazing and one of a kind, but that is a story for another day. The entry to the site is through a spur road towards south from the Stallion Gate, or the Stallion Range Center access on Route 380. The closest town to the Trinity site is San Antonio, New Mexico, which is 11 miles towards west. There is a security checkpoint about 15 miles from the Stallion Gate. One needs a valid real ID and car papers to pass through this checkpoint. The actual Trinity site is another 15-minute drive from here. This is the area where the highlands of New Mexico in the north meet the desert in the south, and the area exhibits characteristics of both. The other entrance to the Trinity site on the open house days is through Alamogordo, which is a town towards southeast of the WSMR as part of a caravan of cars that enter and exit the range together. Once you reach the site, there is a huge parking lot for cars, buses, and RVs. We saw quite a few police as well as army vehicles to ensure safety. There is a large number of mobile toilets installed in one corner of the huge parking lot, and there are water pumps and sanitization stations next to them. Next to these is a food stall selling basic food like hot dogs and soda. There is also a stall providing basic information to tourists. The exact place where the bomb was detonated is called the Ground Zero. It is a short walk from the parking lot. For seniors and the physically challenged, there is a golf cart service. So, what is there to see at the Trinity site? The most popular attraction is the 12-foot tall obelisk built with lava rock right next to the tower on which the bomb was detonated, with an inscription of some details of the event. There is also a remnant of Jumbo, which is a huge, thick, metallic shell which was brought here with the intention of housing the plutonium bomb inside it, so that the plutonium would be contained in case the atomic explosion failed. This was, however, not used during the test, but used later on for a subsequent non atomic bomb explosion. Also on display is a bomb casing almost identical to the original bomb casing that housed the Fat Man bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki. Many such casings and other artifacts were demilitarized after de escalation of war preparations. There is also the McDonald Ranch House, a house where the bomb was assembled from its components prior to the test, about 2 miles from Ground Zero. However, on the day of our trip, unfortunately, this was closed because of weather related reasons. Apart from these permanent exhibits, there are also a few temporary exhibits just for the open house days. Historic photographs of events from the Manhattan Project and the Second World War are displayed on one of the fences. There is a stall displaying Trinitite where children can witness very closely and also touch the glassy residue left behind at the site of explosion by thermochemical changes to sand. There are also a couple of temporary stalls near Ground Zero selling memorabilia, souvenirs, etc. Nothing very impressive, really. So, as you can see, all in all, there is not so much to see here. But what is mind boggling is what you cannot see. For example, the fact that the radioactivity in this place is still 10 times the normal. And for example, the 100-foot tall metal tower on which the bomb was hoisted before the explosion was completely obliterated, leaving behind a 1-inch high metallic stump in the ground. No pieces of metal or shrapnel strewn around the area. Everything just vaporized. It gives me goosebumps to imagine the force, the power that was involved that would have made this happen. It makes me shudder that destructive forces, many times more powerful, exist in thousands in today's world, which can be engaged at a moment's notice, causing complete destruction of the world. A few words about the planning and preparation. Fortunately, and for a change, a visit to the Trinity site does not involve a lot of prior planning and preparations. Just take a note of the open house dates and plan to be there on the right date. While your trip is approaching, keep an eye on updates on the WSMR web or Facebook page. The open house is usually from early in the morning till late afternoon. There are no advance reservations of any kind required if you enter through the Stallion Gate in the north. However, if you plan to enter as part of the caravan from Alamogordo, you need to be there at the starting point by a certain time in the morning. You cannot join the caravan in the middle of the way. Also, I believe nowadays they allow only a certain number of cars in the caravan, so you may need to be there early. At the entrance, you will be asked for a valid real ID, which can be the driver's license in most cases, and also the car documents. The entire road is accessible to any kind of cars. Because of the times of the year when this event is held, I would strongly recommend dressing in layers and carrying a summer hat as well as an umbrella or a poncho, as it is completely out in the open with no shades. Carry a few bottles of water and possibly some snacks, as the food arrangement really did not impress me. The best resource for planning this trip, with a lot of anticipated questions already answered, is the Open House webpage on the WSMR website. We had our heart's content at the Trinity site and then returned via the exit route, still through the Stallion Gate, but using a loop road that added 3 to 4 miles to the drive. We proceeded to Carrizozo for a late lunch there, followed by a visit to the Gran Cuevera ruins, which is part of the Salinas Pueblo Missions National Monument. We spent only about 2.5 hours at the Trinity site, but carried back a boatload of indelible memories of this bucket list item of mine.